She didn't dress to impress. He wasn't looking for love. Yet at the Met's glittering gala, billionaire Roman Elridge's world collided with Naomi Sinclair's simple authenticity, changing both their lives forever. Before we get into the story, comment below where in the world you are watching from today. The evening lights of New York City sparkled against the night sky as limousines pulled up one after another in front of the Met. Women in designer gowns and men in expensive tuxedos stepped onto the red carpet, all of them eager to be seen at the charity gala of the season. "Remember, this is for the Children's Hospital," said Peter Montgomery, the event organizer, though most guests were more interested in who else was attending than the actual cause. A buzz of excitement rippled through the crowd as Roman Elridge's black limousine pulled up. At 32, Roman was the CEO of Elridge International, one of the fastest-growing companies in tech and renewable energy. His net worth had tripled in the last year alone, making him one of the most eligible bachelors in the country. "Mr. Elridge, over here," shouted photographers as Roman stepped out of his car. Tall, with dark hair and piercing blue eyes, he wore his custom-made tuxedo like armor. His smile was practiced, but didn't reach his eyes as he nodded to the cameras. Inside, women immediately noticed his arrival. Many had spent weeks planning how to accidentally bump into him tonight. "That's the man I'm going to marry," whispered Vanessa Williams to her friend as she adjusted her low-cut red gown. "My father's company would be perfect for a merger with Elridge International." "You and every other woman here," her friend replied with a laugh. Roman moved through the crowd with practiced ease, shaking hands and making polite conversation, but his eyes remained distant. He'd been to hundreds of these events, and they all felt the same. People wanting something from him, never really seeing him. "Roman, so glad you could make it," said Michael Thornton, slapping him on the back. "There's someone I'd like you to meet. My daughter just graduated from Harvard Business School. Perhaps later," Roman said politely, already moving away. He headed toward the bar, ordered a scotch, and surveyed the room with weary eyes. Across town, in a small apartment in Brooklyn, Naomi Sinclair was curled up on her couch with a book and a cup of tea when her phone rang. "Please tell me you're dressed," came the panicked voice of her best friend Zoe. "Hello to you too," Naomi replied, tucking her natural curls behind her ear. "And no, I'm in my pajamas. It's Friday night, my favorite time to relax." "I need a huge favor," Zoe said. "One of our VIP guests just cancelled for the charity gala at the Met tonight, and my boss is freaking out because the table will look empty. I need you to come." "Me? At a fancy gala?" Naomi laughed. "I don't have anything to wear to something like that. Wear that navy dress you wore to my birthday last year. It's perfect. Please, Naomi. I'll lose my job if this doesn't go well." Naomi sighed, looking at her comfortable couch longingly. "Fine, but I'm wearing flats, not heels. And I'm only staying for the food and to see the art exhibit. You're a lifesaver. The car will pick you up in 30 minutes. Back at the Met, Roman was already growing tired of the evening. He'd deflected 3 different women who had very obviously tried to get his attention, and he'd sat through a dinner conversation about golf that had nearly put him to sleep. "Another scotch, please," he said to the bartender, loosening his tie slightly. That's when the side entrance opened and Naomi walked in. Unlike the other women in their glamorous gowns, she wore a simple navy blue dress that hit just below her knees. Her natural curls framed her face, which was free of makeup except for a touch of lip gloss. Instead of teetering on heels, she wore comfortable flats. She looked around the room with curious eyes, not with the hungry gaze of someone looking to be noticed, but with the genuine interest of someone taking in the art and architecture. Roman found himself staring. There was something so refreshing about her presence. She moved through the room like she didn't care who saw her or what they thought. Naomi spotted Zoe across the room and waved, then made her way over. "You made it!" Zoe hugged her. "Thank you so much. The car ride was nice," Naomi said with a smile. "Now where's this famous art exhibit you promised?" "Through those doors, but don't you want to mingle a bit first? Do you know who's here tonight? Roman Elridge?" Naomi raised an eyebrow. "Should I know who that is?" Zoe's mouth dropped open. "Only the richest bachelor in New York. Everyone wants to meet him." "Good for them," Naomi said, already moving toward the exhibit. "I'm here for the art and the food, remember? Not to fawn over some rich guy." As she walked away, Roman found himself following her with his eyes. He was used to women trying to catch his attention, but this woman seemed completely uninterested in the social games everyone else was playing. Without thinking, he set down his drink and followed her into the exhibit. Naomi stood in front of a beautiful painting, completely absorbed. She had a small notebook in her hand and was jotting down her thoughts. "What do you think of it?" Roman asked, stepping up beside her. Naomi glanced at him briefly. "I think the artist captured loneliness perfectly," she said, not recognizing who he was. "All these people in the painting, but no one's really connecting." Roman was taken aback. Most people would have immediately recognized him and changed their behavior. "That's insightful," he said. She shrugged. "Just what I see." She moved on to the next painting without another word. Roman followed, intrigued. "I'm Roman," he said, extending his hand. "Naomi," she replied, shaking it briefly before returning to her notebook. "Are you an art critic?" he asked. "No," she laughed, "just someone who appreciates it. My mum used to clean houses for rich families, and one of them had an amazing art collection. The lady of the house let me look at the paintings when I visited my mum at work. Been hooked ever since." Her honesty was refreshing. No calculated story designed to impress him. "What do you do, Roman?" she asked, still focused on the painting. He hesitated. "I run a company." "That's nice," she said, clearly not very interested. She checked her watch. "They should be serving dessert soon. I heard they have amazing chocolate cake." Roman found himself smiling genuinely for the first time that evening. "Would you like to go find out?" Naomi finally looked at him properly. "Sure, why not? Lead the way." As they walked back toward the main hall, Vanessa Williams intercepted them, her red dress making it impossible to miss her. "Roman, I've been looking for you everywhere," she said, completely ignoring Naomi. "Daddy was hoping to discuss some business opportunities with you." "I'm in the middle of something right now," Roman said firmly. Vanessa finally noticed Naomi and looked her up and down with obvious disdain. "Oh, I didn't realize you were busy." Her tone made it clear what she thought of Naomi's simple appearance. "Naomi, this is Vanessa Williams," Roman said, feeling strangely protective. "Vanessa, this is Naomi Sinclair." "Charmed," Vanessa said coldly. "Are you with the catering staff?" Naomi raised an eyebrow but smiled politely. "No, just a guest who appreciates good cake. Speaking of which," she turned to Roman, "I think I can find my way to the dessert table. Nice meeting you both." She walked away without a backward glance, leaving Roman staring after her. "Well, she's certainly different," Vanessa said with a tight smile. "Now about those business opportunities." "Excuse me," Roman said abruptly, leaving Vanessa mid-sentence to follow Naomi. Naomi was indeed at the dessert table, happily selecting a piece of chocolate cake when Roman caught up with her. "I apologize for Vanessa," he said. "No need," Naomi replied, taking a bite of cake. This is amazing." "Want some?" Roman declined. "You really don't know who I am, do you?" Naomi studied him for a moment. "Should I?" "Most people here do." "Well, I'm not most people," she said simply, "and I don't keep up with rich people news." "No offense." "None taken," Roman said, finding himself more intrigued by the minute. "How did you end up at this gala?" "My friend Zoe works PR for the event. Last-minute cancellation. I'm the emergency fill-in." She took another bite of cake. "I almost didn't come, but she promised good food and art, so here I am." Roman laughed, a genuine sound that made several nearby people turn and stare. Roman Elridge was known for his serious demeanor at these events. "What?" Naomi asked. "Nothing. It's just refreshing to talk to someone who isn't trying to impress me." "Why would I try to impress you? I don't even know you," Naomi said matter-of-factly. Roman smiled. "Fair point." As they continued talking, Roman found himself sharing more than he normally would with someone he'd just met. There was something about Naomi's straightforward manner that made him want to be real with her. Across the room, Zoe was staring at them with her mouth open. "Do you know who she's talking to?" whispered another PR assistant. "Yes, and I can't believe it," Zoe replied. "That's my best friend Naomi, and she probably has no idea who he is." Later that evening, as the gala was winding down, Roman found himself reluctant to say goodbye to Naomi. "Can I give you a ride home?" he asked. "Thanks, but Zoe's arranged for a car to take me back," Naomi said. "It was nice meeting you, Roman. Good luck with your company." "Wait," Roman said, reaching into his pocket for a business card. "Take this, in case you ever want to see more art." Naomi looked at the card, and for the first time that evening, her eyes widened in surprise as she read, "Roman Elridge, CEO, Elridge International." "Oh," she said simply. "Well, that explains why everyone's been staring at us." Roman waited for her reaction to change, for her to suddenly become like everyone else who discovered his wealth and position. Instead, Naomi just put the card in her purse and smiled. "Thanks for the interesting conversation, Mr. CEO. It was a nice break from my book. Would you have dinner with me sometime?" Roman asked, surprising himself with the directness of the question. Naomi tilted her head, considering him. Why? Because I've spent the whole evening talking to you, and I still want to know more, he answered honestly. I don't date wealthy men, she said frankly. No offense, but I grew up watching my mother clean their houses. I know how that world works. You don't know me, Roman said quietly. True, Naomi acknowledged, but I know enough to be careful. She took out her own card, simple, with just her name and number. Still, I did enjoy our conversation. If you want to continue it sometime, you can call me. Just don't expect me to be impressed by fancy restaurants or expensive gifts. Roman took the card, feeling like he'd been given something precious. I wouldn't dream of it. As Naomi walked away to find Zoe, Roman knew one thing for certain. He would definitely be calling her. The next morning, Naomi was awakened by an excited phone call from Zoe. Do you have any idea who you were talking to last night? Zoe practically screamed into the phone. Roman Elridge, CEO of Elridge International, Naomi said, yawning. I found out at the end of the evening, and you spent hours talking to him like it was no big deal. Every woman there was trying to get his attention, and he couldn't take his eyes off you. He was just bored and I was something different, Naomi said, getting out of bed and heading to the kitchen to make coffee. It doesn't mean anything. He's worth billions, Naomi, billions. And that's supposed to impress me? Naomi asked, rolling her eyes even though Zoe couldn't see her. I watched my mum break her back cleaning for rich people for years. Money doesn't make someone special. But no buts. It was one conversation at a charity event. End of story. But even as she said it, Naomi found herself thinking about Roman's genuine laugh and the way his eyes had lit up when she'd spoken honestly with him. At his penthouse apartment overlooking Central Park, Roman was already awake and staring at Naomi's card. He hadn't been able to stop thinking about her since the gala. His assistant, Marcus, entered with his morning coffee and schedule. The board members are already calling about the Phillips deal, sir, and your brother left 3 messages wanting to know how the gala went. Tell them I'll call back later, Roman said, still looking at the card, and clear my schedule for dinner tonight. Marcus raised an eyebrow. May I ask with whom? Roman finally looked up, a determined expression on his face. I'm not sure she'll say yes yet. He picked up his phone and dialed Naomi's number, feeling strangely nervous. Roman Elridge, who negotiated billion-dollar deals without breaking a sweat, was anxious about calling a woman he'd just met. Hello? Naomi's voice came through the line. Naomi, it's Roman, from last night. I remember, she said, and he could hear the smile in her voice. That was fast. I don't waste time when I find something or someone interesting, he said honestly. And is that how you approach your business deals too? She asked. Yes, he admitted, but this isn't a business deal. Good, Naomi said firmly, because I'm not for sale. I never thought you were, Roman replied. Would you have dinner with me tonight? Nothing fancy, I promise. You pick the place. There was a pause, and Roman found himself holding his breath. There's a small Ethiopian restaurant in my neighborhood, Naomi finally said. Best food in Brooklyn, and the owners are wonderful people. If you're serious about nothing fancy, meet me there at 7. Text me the address, I'll be there, Roman said, unable to keep the smile from his voice. After they hung up, Marcus looked at his boss curiously. Sir, should I arrange for the usual table at Le Bernardin? No, Roman said, putting down his phone with a genuine smile. I'm going to Brooklyn, to an Ethiopian restaurant. Marcus blinked in surprise. See, shall I have the car ready? Roman thought for a moment. No, I'll take a taxi, or the subway. Now Marcus looked truly alarmed. The subway, sir? But security protocols? For once, Marcus, I don't want to be Roman Elridge, CEO. I just want to be Roman. He looked out at the city below. I think it's time I remembered what that feels like. In her apartment, Naomi stared at her phone in disbelief. Had she really just invited one of the richest men in New York to her local Ethiopian restaurant? And more surprisingly, had he actually agreed? She called her mother, needing her practical advice. Mom, I met someone last night at that gala I went to for Zoe. That's nice, dear, her mother said. What's he like? Naomi hesitated. He's successful, very successful, and rich. There was a pause on the other end of the line. And you're telling me this because I know how you feel about wealthy men after all those years working for them, Naomi said. But he seems different. He actually listened when I talked. He didn't try to show off or impress me. Her mother hummed skeptically. Just remember what I always told you. Don't let a man love the parts of you he finds exotic. Then ignore the parts that make you real, Naomi recited from memory. Exactly. Rich men often want what they don't have. Authenticity, simplicity. But once they get it, they try to change it into something that fits their world better. I know, Mom, I'm being careful. We're just having dinner. Well, bring him by the house sometime if it gets serious. I've cleaned enough mansions to know how to spot a fake smile from a real one. After hanging up, Naomi went to her closet. Unlike most women preparing for a date with a billionaire, she wasn't frantically trying to find her most impressive outfit. Instead, she selected comfortable jeans, a simple blouse, and her favorite ankle boots. If he's expecting designer labels, he's in for a disappointment, she murmured to herself. But somehow, she didn't think Roman would mind at all. That evening, Roman surprised his security team by insisting on taking the subway to Brooklyn. Dressed in jeans and a simple button-down shirt, he looked more like an ordinary New Yorker than a CEO. As he emerged from the subway station in Brooklyn, he felt a strange sense of freedom. No one was looking at him. No one was trying to get his attention or favor. He was just another person on the street. He found the Ethiopian restaurant easily enough, a small, warmly lit place with colorful decorations and delicious smells coming from inside. Through the window, he could see Naomi already seated at a table, reading a book while she waited. Roman took a deep breath and went inside, feeling more nervous than he had for his first board meeting. This wasn't his world of high-rise offices and power lunches. This was Naomi's world, and for the first time in a long time, Roman Elridge felt like he had something to prove. The bell above the door jingled as he entered, and Naomi looked up from her book. When she saw him, she smiled, a real smile that lit up her eyes, and Roman knew he was exactly where he wanted to be. What neither of them realized was that this dinner would be the beginning of a journey that would challenge everything they thought they knew about love, wealth, and what truly matters in life. Roman Elridge, the man who had everything, was about to learn what it meant to want something he couldn't simply buy, and Naomi Sinclair, the woman who didn't try to impress anyone, was about to make the most powerful impression of all, simply by being herself. The Ethiopian restaurant was filled with the rich aroma of spices and the quiet hum of conversation. Roman stood in the doorway for a moment, taking it all in. He'd eaten at the finest restaurants in the world, but there was something warm and inviting about this small place that those expensive establishments often lacked. "You came," Naomi said with a hint of surprise as he approached her table. "I said I would," Roman replied, sitting down across from her. He noticed her simple outfit, jeans and a blouse, and was glad he'd dressed casually too. "I like this place already." "Wait until you taste the food," Naomi said, closing her book and setting it aside. "I hope you don't mind eating with your hands. They serve everything with injera bread that you use to scoop up the food," Roman smiled. "I'll follow your lead." An older woman approached their table, her face lighting up when she saw Naomi. "My favorite customer. And you brought a friend." "Hello, Mrs. Tadesse," Naomi said warmly. "This is Roman. Roman, this is Mrs. Tadesse. She and her husband own this place, and they make the best food in Brooklyn. Any friend of Naomi's is welcome here," Mrs. Tadesse said, giving Roman an appraising look. "You want the usual, Naomi?" "Yes, please. And maybe you could bring us a sampler so Roman can try a bit of everything." Of course, Mrs. Tadesse patted Naomi's shoulder affectionately before heading back to the kitchen. "You come here often?" Roman asked. Naomi nodded. "At least once a week. Their son goes to the elementary school where I teach." Roman looked surprised. "You're a teacher?" "Third grade," Naomi said with a smile. "The pay is terrible, but I love it." "What did you think I did?" Roman realized he hadn't even asked. "I don't know, we didn't get to that part of the conversation last night." "Well, now you know. I shape young minds by day and read books by night, very glamorous." Roman laughed. "It sounds more meaningful than most of what I do." "And what exactly do you do besides being a CEO?" Naomi asked, leaning forward slightly. "What does Elridge International actually make or do?" "We started in tech, software mostly, but in the last few years we've expanded into renewable energy, solar panels, wind turbines, that sort of thing." Roman found himself enjoying explaining his work without the usual business jargon he used at meetings. "We're trying to make green energy more accessible to everyone, not just the wealthy." "That's actually impressive," Naomi admitted. "I thought you might be one of those CEOs who just moved money around and called it business." Roman laughed again. "Some days there's a lot of that too," he admitted. "But no, we make real things that help real people." Mrs. Tadesse returned with a large platter of food and 2 glasses of honey wine. "Enjoy," she said with a wink at Naomi. Roman watched as Naomi tore off a piece of the spongy bread and expertly scooped up some of the spiced lentils. He followed her example, though less gracefully. "So," Naomi said after they'd eaten for a bit, "tell me something about Roman Elridge that isn't in the business magazines." Roman thought for a moment. "I have a cat named Chairman Meow." Naomi nearly choked on her wine. "You're kidding." "Nope, he's a rescue, very demanding. Runs my apartment like it's his personal kingdom. I wouldn't have pegged you as a cat person," Naomi said, smiling. "What would you have pegged me as?" "I don't know. Someone with a purebred dog, maybe. Something impressive and expensive." Roman shook his head. "I travel too much for a dog, and Chairman keeps me humble. Hard to feel like a big shot when you're cleaning out a litter box." Naomi laughed, and Roman found himself enchanted by the sound. It was genuine, like everything else about her. "Your turn," he said. "Tell me something about Naomi Sinclair that her students don't know." "I write poetry," she said after a moment. "Nothing published or anything, just for myself." "What kind of poetry?" "The kind that probably isn't very good," she said with a self-deprecating smile. "But it helps me process things, make sense of the world." "I'd like to read it sometime," Roman said. Naomi raised an eyebrow. "That's a third date privilege at least." "So there's going to be a second and third date?" Roman asked, unable to keep the hope out of his voice. Naomi studied him for a moment. "We'll see how the rest of this one goes." The rest of the dinner went surprisingly well. Roman couldn't remember the last time he'd talked so openly with someone, or laughed so much. With Naomi, there were no hidden agendas, no calculated moves, just honest conversation. As they walked out of the restaurant, the cool evening air greeted them. "Can I walk you home?" Roman asked. "It's only a few blocks," Naomi said with a nod. "But fair warning, my apartment isn't exactly a penthouse." "I didn't expect it to be," Roman said. As they walked, he fought the urge to reach for her hand. Something told him Naomi wasn't the type to rush into anything. "So how does a guy like you end up running a company before he's even 35? Naomi asked, as they strolled down the Brooklyn streets. "My father started the company," Roman explained. "It was just a small tech firm back then. When I was in college, he got sick. Cancer. I took a semester off to help out, learned the business. By the time he died, I was already running most of it. The board took a chance on me, even though I was only 24. "I'm sorry about your father," Naomi said softly. "Thank you," Roman said. "He was a good man. Worked his way up from nothing. He never forgot what it was like to struggle, even after he became successful." "Is that where you get it from? That hint of humility I occasionally glimpse beneath the CEO exterior?" Roman smiled. "Maybe. My sister Emily used to say I was too serious for my own good. She was always dragging me to concerts, art shows, making me experience life outside the office." Naomi noticed the past tense. "Was?" Roman's smile faded. "She died 5 years ago, car accident." Naomi stopped walking and turned to face him. "I'm so sorry, Roman." "It's okay," he said, though his eyes said differently. "She was the free spirit in the family. After she died, I threw myself into work even more. It was easier than dealing with the loss." Naomi reached out and touched his arm gently. "That's a very human response." They continued walking in comfortable silence until they reached a modest apartment building. "This is me," Naomi said, stopping in front of the entrance. "Thank you for tonight," Roman said. "Best dinner I've had in a long time." "The food or the company?" Naomi asked with a small smile. "Both," Roman admitted, though the company was exceptional. "You're not so bad yourself, CEO," Naomi said, "for a billionaire." "High praise indeed," Roman laughed. "Can I see you again?" Naomi considered him for a moment. "Yes," she finally said, "but not at some fancy restaurant where you'll have to make reservations months in advance. Something real." "I can do real," Roman promised. "How about the Botanical Garden this weekend? Saturday afternoon?" "That sounds nice," Naomi said, "but I should warn you, I have to visit my mom afterward. She lives in Queens. She's already curious about you." "I'd like to meet her," Roman said, surprising himself with how much he meant it. Naomi looked genuinely surprised. "Really? Most men run for the hills at the mention of meeting my mother. She's not exactly easy on the men I date." "I'm not most men," Roman said simply. "No," Naomi agreed, her eyes meeting his. "You're not." For a moment, they stood there, the city noise fading into the background. Then Naomi smiled and said, "Good night, Roman. Thanks for trying Ethiopian food with me." "Good night, Naomi," he replied. "I'll call you about Saturday." As Roman walked back toward the subway, he realized he felt lighter than he had in years. There was something about Naomi that made the world seem brighter, more real, and for the first time since his sister died, Roman felt truly alive. The next morning, Roman was in the middle of a meeting when his assistant Marcus slipped him a note. Vanessa Williams on line 2, third time she's called this morning. Roman suppressed a sigh. Tell her I'm in meetings all day. His brother James, who was sitting across the conference table, raised an eyebrow. Turning down the Williams heiress? That's not like you. Her father's company would be a valuable acquisition. I'm not interested, Roman said firmly. James studied him curiously. This wouldn't have anything to do with the mystery woman you were seen with at the gala, would it? The one in the simple blue dress. Roman kept his face neutral. My personal life isn't up for discussion. It is when it affects the company, James countered. The Williams merger would open doors in Asia that we've been trying to get through for years. We'll find another way, Roman said, turning back to the meeting agenda. Now about the solar panel factory in Nevada. Meanwhile, Naomi was in her classroom, helping a student with a math problem when her phone buzzed with a text. She checked it during her lunch break and saw it was from Roman. Looking forward to Saturday. Is 1 p.m. at the main entrance good? Also, Chairman Meow says hello. Naomi smiled and texted back, 1 p.m. works. Tell Chairman I expect to meet him eventually if this keeps going well. Her friend and fellow teacher Lisa peered over her shoulder. Who's Chairman Meow? A cat, Naomi said, putting her phone away. And who does this cat belong to that has you smiling like that? Lisa pressed. Naomi hesitated. Just someone I met recently. Details, please, Lisa insisted. I've known you for 3 years and I've never seen you smile at your phone like that. His name is Roman, Naomi admitted. We had dinner last night. And? What does he do? What's he like? Naomi chose her words carefully. He runs a company. He's smart, funny when he relaxes, and surprisingly down to earth. What company? Lisa asked. Elridge International, Naomi said quietly. Lisa's eyes widened comically. Elridge You're dating Roman Elridge? The Roman Elridge? How did you even meet him? At that charity gala I went to for Zoe, Naomi explained. And we're not dating. We had one dinner and we're going to the botanical garden on Saturday. That's it. That's not it, and you know it, Lisa said, shaking her head in disbelief. Do you have any idea how many women would kill to be in your position? That's exactly the problem, Naomi said with a frown. I don't want to be seen as just another woman chasing a rich man. That's not who I am. Of course not, Lisa agreed. But you can't ignore who he is either. His world is very different from ours, Naomi. I know, Naomi sighed. Trust me, I know. Saturday arrived with perfect weather, sunny but not too hot. Naomi wore a simple sundress and sandals, her natural curls loose around her shoulders. She spotted Roman waiting at the entrance to the botanical garden, dressed in khakis and a polo shirt, looking more relaxed than she'd seen him before. Right on time, he said with a smile when he saw her. Teacher's habit, she replied. Punctuality is drilled into us. They entered the garden together, and Roman surprised her by knowing a lot about the plants they saw. My mother loved gardening, he explained as they walked through the rose garden. She used to drag me along to help her on weekends. I complained about it then, but now I'm grateful for those memories. Both your parents are gone? Naomi asked gently. Roman nodded. Mom passed away a year after my dad. Some people said it was from a broken heart, but it was actually an aneurysm. Either way, I lost them both too young. That must have been hard, Naomi said, taking over the company while dealing with that loss. It was, Roman admitted. But in some ways the work saved me, gave me purpose when I might have fallen apart otherwise. He paused, then added, What about your father? You've mentioned your mother, but not him. He left when I was 7, Naomi said matter-of-factly. Decided family life wasn't for him. Mom raised me on her own, working 2 jobs sometimes to make ends meet. That couldn't have been easy, Roman said. It wasn't, Naomi agreed, but it made me strong, and it taught me not to depend on anyone else for my happiness or security. Roman studied her face. Is that why you're so hesitant about us? Because you think I might leave? Partly, Naomi admitted, but it's more than that. Your world and mine are very different, Roman. I've seen how wealth changes people, how it can become a wall between them and reality. Not all wealthy people are like that, Roman argued. No, but many are, Naomi countered. And even the good ones often don't realize how their money shapes everything around them. They continued walking, both lost in thought. Finally, Roman spoke again. I can't change who I am or what I have, he said quietly, but I can promise you this. I will never use my wealth to control you or to build walls between us. I'm trying to see the world through your eyes, Naomi. Will you at least try to see it through mine? Naomi looked at him, seeing the sincerity in his eyes. I can try, she said. That's all I can promise right now. Roman smiled. That's enough for me. After the botanical garden, they took Roman's car, a surprisingly modest sedan rather than the flashy sports car Naomi had expected, to Queens to visit her mother. Roman found himself growing nervous as they approached the small, well-kept house. Remember, my mom doesn't hold back, Naomi warned as they walked to the door. She's seen too much working for rich families to be impressed by money or status. Noted, Roman said, straightening his shirt nervously. The door opened before they could knock, revealing a woman in her 60s with the same warm brown skin and expressive eyes as Naomi, though her hair was now mostly grey. Right on time, Gloria Sinclair said, hugging her daughter before turning her sharp gaze on Roman. And this must be the billionaire. Mom, Naomi said in a warning tone. What, am I wrong? Gloria asked, looking Roman up and down. No, ma'am, you're not wrong, Roman said, extending his hand. Roman Elridge, it's a pleasure to meet you. Gloria shook his hand, her grip firm. We'll see about that. Come in, both of you. I made lunch. The house was small but immaculate, filled with colorful throw pillows and family photos. Roman noticed many pictures of Naomi growing up, but none of a man who might be her father. Sit, Gloria commanded, pointing to the dining table. The food's almost ready. As Gloria busied herself in the kitchen, Roman whispered to Naomi, She's exactly how I pictured her. Terrifying, Naomi whispered back. Impressive, Roman corrected. Lunch was a simple but delicious meal of fried chicken, collard greens, and macaroni and cheese. Gloria watched Roman carefully as he ate. So, she finally said, Naomi tells me you run a big company. Yes, ma'am. Elridge International. We're in tech and renewable energy. Gloria said, seemingly unimpressed. And what are your intentions with my daughter? Mom, Naomi exclaimed. It's a fair question, Gloria insisted. Rich men don't usually date third-grade teachers unless they want something. With all due respect, Mrs. Sinclair, Roman said calmly, I'm not rich men. I'm just a man who finds your daughter remarkable. She's honest, intelligent, and sees the world in a way that challenges me. I don't have any hidden agenda. I simply enjoy being with her. Gloria studied him for a long moment. You sound sincere, but I've heard pretty words from men in nice clothes before. I understand your skepticism, Roman said. I don't expect you to trust me right away. All I ask is that you give me a chance to prove myself through actions, not words. Gloria's expression softened slightly. That's a start. She turned to Naomi. He speaks well. I'll give him that. Naomi rolled her eyes. He can hear you, Mum. Gloria turned back to Roman. I spent 30 years cleaning houses for men like you, Mr. Elridge. I was invisible to them. They'd talk about their affairs, their shady business deals, their true feelings about their wives, all while I was standing right there dusting their expensive furniture. They didn't see me as a person. That's terrible, Roman said sincerely, and unfortunately common. My own company has been guilty of not seeing the support staff as people. It's something I've been trying to change. And how's that going? Gloria asked, seeming genuinely curious now. Slowly, Roman admitted. Change usually does, but we've raised our minimum wage, improved benefits, and created a scholarship program for employees' children. It's a start. Gloria nodded thoughtfully. Naomi told me you lost your sister. The sudden change of subject caught Roman off guard. Yes, 5 years ago? And your parents before that? Gloria continued. So you understand loss. I do, Roman said quietly. Good, Gloria said firmly, because if you hurt my daughter, you'll understand it even better. Mom, Naomi exclaimed again, but Roman was actually smiling. I wouldn't expect anything less, he said to Gloria. Your daughter is lucky to have you protecting her. Damn right she is, Gloria agreed, but there was a hint of approval in her eyes now. The rest of the lunch went surprisingly well. Gloria shared stories about Naomi as a child, how she was always reading, always asking questions, always standing up for the underdog. She punched a boy in the nose when she was 9, Gloria recounted with pride. He was bullying a smaller child, and Naomi wasn't having it. Got suspended for 3 days, but I wasn't even mad. I can picture that perfectly, Roman said, grinning at Naomi, who looked embarrassed but pleased. As they were leaving, Gloria pulled Roman aside while Naomi was in the bathroom. She's special, Gloria said quietly. Not because she's beautiful or smart, though she is both those things. She's special because she knows who she is. Don't try to change that. I wouldn't dream of it, Roman promised. Her authenticity is what drew me to her in the first place. Gloria nodded. You seem different from most rich men I've known. Less entitled. But remember what I said. Actions, not words. I won't forget, Roman assured her. In the car driving back to Brooklyn, Naomi seemed thoughtful. She likes you, she finally said. How can you tell? Roman asked. She offered you seconds on the mac and cheese, Naomi said with a smile. That's high praise from Gloria Sinclair. Roman laughed. I'm honored, and for the record, it was the best mac and cheese I've ever had. I'll tell her you said so, Naomi said. It'll earn you more points. As they pulled up in front of Naomi's apartment building, Roman turned to her. Thank you for today, for showing me your world. It's a much smaller world than yours, Naomi said. But in many ways, it's richer, Roman replied honestly. There's a warmth, a realness to it that I've been missing. Naomi studied his face. You really mean that, don't you? I do, Roman said. My world is full of people who want something from me. In yours, people just want to be with you. There's a big difference. Without overthinking it, Naomi leaned over and kissed him softly on the cheek. You're surprising me, Roman Elridge. Good, he said, his voice a little rough, because you've been surprising me since the moment we met. Naomi got out of the car, but before closing the door, she said, Call me tomorrow. Roman nodded. Wild horses couldn't stop me. As he drove away, Roman knew with absolute certainty that Naomi Sinclair was becoming important to him in a way no one had been since his sister died. And that was both wonderful and terrifying. What he didn't know was that across town, forces were already gathering that would test their budding relationship in ways neither of them could imagine. Because when a man like Roman Elridge starts behaving differently, people notice, and not everyone is happy about it. The news about Roman Elridge and his mystery woman spread quickly through New York's elite circles. Photos of them at the Botanical Garden had somehow made their way to social media, and speculation was running wild. Who is she? Demanded Vanessa Williams, tossing her tablet onto her father's desk. The screen showed Roman and Naomi walking together, looking relaxed and happy. Charles Williams, head of Williams Industries, studied the image. Some nobody, from what I hear. A schoolteacher from Brooklyn. A schoolteacher? Vanessa repeated incredulously. What could Roman possibly see in her? Maybe it's just a fling, her father suggested. A distraction. It better be, Vanessa said, pacing the luxurious office. The merger between our companies makes perfect sense. Everyone knows it, everyone expects it. Charles watched his daughter carefully. Is this about the merger, or is it about him? Vanessa stopped pacing. Both. Williams Elridge Industries would dominate the market, and Roman and I would be the power couple of New York. Then perhaps we need to remind Mr. Elridge where his true interests lie, Charles said thoughtfully. I'll make some calls. In his office at Elridge International, Roman was reviewing quarterly reports when his brother James walked in without knocking. Have you seen this? James demanded, holding up his phone with the same photos Vanessa had been looking at. Roman barely glanced up. Yes, I was there, hard to miss myself. This isn't funny, Roman. The board is concerned. Now Roman did look up. About what? My personal life? About the Williams merger, James said. Charles Williams called this morning. He's reconsidering our proposal, and we both know why. The merger was never guaranteed, Roman pointed out. It was as good as done until you started dating this teacher, James said, making the word sound like an insult. What are you thinking? She's not from our world. That's exactly what I like about her, Roman said, standing up. And my personal life is not up for discussion, even with you. James sighed. Look, I'm happy you found someone. Really. After Emily died, we were all worried about you. But the timing couldn't be worse. This merger means billions for the company. There are other ways to expand, Roman said firmly. Ways that don't involve me dating someone I'm not interested in. At least meet with Charles, James pleaded. Smooth things over. You don't have to commit to anything with Vanessa, just don't slam the door on the merger. Roman thought about it. Fine. Set up the meeting, but make it clear it's strictly business. After James left, Roman sat back down, feeling the weight of his position. For years he'd made decisions based solely on what was best for the company. Now, for the first time, his personal happiness was factoring into the equation. He picked up his phone and found himself smiling as he texted Naomi, Dinner at my place tonight, I'll cook, and you can finally meet Chairman Meow? Naomi was in the middle of a lesson about fractions when her phone buzzed. She checked it during her break and smiled at Roman's invitation. They'd been dating for 3 weeks now, seeing each other every few days. Each time she found herself more drawn to him, despite her initial reservations. She texted back, "You cook. This I have to see. Text me the address, I'll bring dessert." As she put her phone away, her colleague Lisa approached. "You're still seeing him, aren't you? The billionaire?" "His name is Roman," Naomi said. "And yes, we're still seeing each other." "You haven't told the other teachers who he is," Lisa noted. "Why the secrecy?" Naomi sighed. "Because I don't want to be the teacher dating Roman Elridge. I just want to be me." "Well, you might not have a choice soon," Lisa said, handing Naomi her phone. On the screen was one of the photos from the botanical garden with the headline, "Roman Elridge's new mystery woman. Who is she?" Naomi's stomach dropped. "Oh no." "It was bound to happen," Lisa said sympathetically. "He's too high profile to stay under the radar." "This is exactly what I didn't want," Naomi groaned. "Have you talked to him about it? About what dating him really means for your privacy?" "Not really," Naomi admitted. "Things have been going so well I didn't want to spoil it with reality." "Well, reality is here," Lisa said, pointing to the phone. "You better figure out if you're ready for this." That evening, Naomi took a taxi to the address Roman had sent, surprised when it led her to a converted warehouse in Tribeca, rather than a glossy high-rise. The building was beautiful, but understated, with none of the flashiness she'd expected. Roman buzzed her up to the top floor. When the elevator doors opened, she found herself in a spacious loft with exposed brick walls, high ceilings, and floor-to-ceiling windows overlooking the city. It was stylish but comfortable, with bookcases lining one wall and a grand piano in the corner. "This is not what I expected," Naomi said as Roman greeted her with a kiss on the cheek. "What were you expecting?" he asked, taking the bakery box she carried. "I don't know. Something more ostentatious?" Roman suggested with a smile. "Maybe," Naomi admitted. "This feels like a real home." "It is," Roman said. "I have the penthouse in Midtown for business entertaining, but this is where I actually live." He set the box down on the kitchen counter. "Can I get you some wine?" "Please," Naomi said, still taking in the space. "It smells amazing in here. What are you making?" "My mom's lasagna recipe," Roman said, pouring 2 glasses of red wine. "It's one of the few things I know how to cook well." A large orange cat sauntered into the room, eyeing Naomi suspiciously. "And this must be the famous Chairman Meow," Naomi said, kneeling down to offer her hand to the cat. Chairman sniffed it cautiously, then surprisingly rubbed his head against her fingers. "Well, that's unexpected," Roman said. "He usually hates strangers. Took my assistant Marcus 6 months to get that level of approval." "I've always had a way with cats," Naomi said, gently scratching under Chairman's chin. "They can sense when someone is genuine." "So can I," Roman said softly, looking at her in a way that made her heart beat faster. As they sat down to dinner, Naomi decided to address the issue that had been bothering her since Lisa showed her the photos. "I saw the pictures of us online today," she said. "From the botanical garden." Roman's expression darkened. "I'm sorry about that. I should have warned you it might happen." "Is this what it's going to be like?" Naomi asked. "People taking our picture whenever we go out? Speculating about me in the press?" Roman set down his fork. "I won't lie to you, Naomi. Yes, there's an element of that in my life. I try to keep a low profile, but sometimes it's impossible. Does that bother you?" "I don't know," Naomi said honestly. "I've always valued my privacy, my quiet, normal life. Dating you means giving some of that up." "I understand if that's too much to ask," Roman said, his voice careful. Naomi reached across the table and took his hand. "I'm not saying it's too much, I'm just saying it's something we need to talk about. I want to know what I'm getting into." Roman squeezed her hand. "Fair enough. Ask me anything, and I'll be completely honest." "Have you had serious relationships before?" Naomi asked. "The kind where privacy would be an issue?" "No," Roman admitted. "I've dated, but never anything serious. Not since college. After Emily died, I just closed that part of myself off." "Until now?" Naomi asked quietly. Roman met her eyes. "Until you." The simple honesty of his answer took Naomi's breath away. "That's a lot of pressure to put on someone," she finally said. "I don't mean it to be," Roman said. "I'm just being honest, like you asked." They finished dinner talking about lighter topics, but the weight of what was growing between them hung in the air. After they cleared the plates, Roman led Naomi to the grand piano. "Do you play?" she asked. "Emily did," Roman said, running his fingers lightly over the keys. "She was the talented one. I know just enough to fumble through a few songs." "Will you play something for me?" Naomi asked. Roman hesitated, then sat down on the bench. "Only if you promise not to laugh." "I would never," Naomi said, sitting beside him. Roman began to play a simple but beautiful melody. His fingers moved carefully, sometimes hitting wrong notes, but the emotion in the music was undeniable. "That's lovely," Naomi said when he finished. "What is it?" "Something Emily composed," Roman said. "She called it Morning Light. I've been trying to learn it properly for years, but I never get it quite right." "It sounded perfect to me," Naomi said softly. Roman turned to look at her, their faces close. "Naomi, The moment was interrupted by Roman's phone ringing loudly. He checked it and frowned. "It's my brother. I should take this." Naomi nodded, standing up to give him privacy. She wandered over to the bookshelves, browsing his collection while Roman spoke in low tones. "What do you mean tonight?" she heard him say. "That's not what we agreed. Fine, I'll be there in an hour." He hung up, looking frustrated. "I'm so sorry, but there's an emergency meeting with Charles Williams. Apparently he's only in town tonight and James has already set everything up." "On a Friday night?" Naomi asked skeptically. "Business doesn't always keep convenient hours," Roman said, running a hand through his hair. "I wouldn't go if it wasn't important." "The Williams merger," Naomi said. "Lisa mentioned something about it. Isn't his daughter the one in the red dress from the gala?" Roman looked uncomfortable. "Yes, Vanessa, but this is strictly business. I promise." "You don't owe me explanations," Naomi said, though part of her wished he would stay. "We've only been dating a few weeks." "It feels like longer," Roman said, taking her hands in his. "In the best possible way," Naomi smiled. "Go to your meeting. Chairman Meow and I will be fine." Roman laughed. "I have a feeling he'll like having you here more than me anyway." He hesitated, then asked, "Will you stay? I shouldn't be more than an hour or two." The request surprised Naomi. "Do you trust me alone in your apartment?" "Completely," Roman said without hesitation. Something warm bloomed in Naomi's chest. "Then yes, I'll stay." After Roman left, Naomi explored the loft more thoroughly. It was stylish, but lived in, with books left open on tables and music scattered near the piano. She found a shelf of framed photos and examined them closely. There were pictures of a younger Roman with an older couple who must be his parents, and many of a beautiful young woman with the same blue eyes as Roman. Emily, Naomi guessed. In one photo, Roman and Emily were laughing, their arms around each other, looking carefree in a way Naomi had never seen Roman look. "He was different then, wasn't he?" she said to Chairman Meow, who had settled on the couch nearby, "before he lost everyone." She continued browsing and was surprised to find a worn poetry book on his nightstand, Pablo Neruda's love poems. It was dog-eared and obviously well read, not at all what she would have expected from a CEO. Eventually, she curled up on the couch with Chairman Meow and one of Roman's books, feeling strangely at home in this space that belonged to a man she was still getting to know. Across town, Roman sat in a private dining room at an exclusive restaurant, facing Charles Williams and his daughter Vanessa. James sat beside Roman, looking tense. "I appreciate you making time for us tonight, Roman," Charles said smoothly. "I know how busy you must be." "Of course," Roman replied politely. "James mentioned you had concerns about our proposal." "Not concerns exactly," Charles said, swirling his whiskey. "Just some thoughts about how to strengthen our partnership." "I'm listening," Roman said, though he had a feeling he knew where this was headed. Charles smiled. "Our companies are natural allies. Your technology, our global distribution network. Together, we could dominate the market." "I agree the business case is strong," Roman said carefully. "But business partnerships work best when they're built on personal relationships as well," Charles continued. "Trust, family connections." Roman felt Vanessa's eyes on him. She was beautiful in a polished, perfect way, wearing an expensive dress and flawless makeup. Once he might have been attracted to her. Now all he could think about was Naomi's natural curls and honest smile. "Mr. Williams," Roman said directly, "if you're suggesting that my personal relationship should factor into our business decisions, I have to respectfully disagree." Charles's smile tightened. "I'm merely pointing out that a union between our families would send a powerful message to the market." "Dad," Vanessa said, looking embarrassed, "you promised you wouldn't do this." "It's all right, Vanessa," Roman said. "Your father is being straightforward and I appreciate that. So let me be equally clear. I'm interested in discussing a business merger, not a personal one." James cleared his throat nervously. "What my brother means is that we should focus on the business aspects tonight. Personal relationships develop in their own time." "No," Roman said firmly. "What I mean is that my personal life and my business decisions are separate matters. If Williams Industries wants to partner with Elridge International, It will be based on mutual business interests alone. Charles's expression hardened. I see. And does this school teacher of yours understand what she's getting into? The responsibilities that come with being connected to someone in your position? Roman felt a flash of anger. Leave Naomi out of this. Impossible, Charles said coldly. She's already in this. The photos are everywhere. People are asking questions. Who is she? What does she want? What's her angle? She doesn't have an angle, Roman said. That's the point. Everyone has an angle, Roman, Charles replied. You're just too blinded to see hers. Roman stood up. This meeting is over. If you want to discuss the merger, have your people call mine during business hours. As he walked out, James hurried after him. Roman, wait! You can't just walk away from this deal. Watch me, Roman said, not slowing down. This is about the company, not just you, James argued, grabbing Roman's arm. Think about the shareholders, the employees. Roman stopped and turned to his brother. I am thinking about them. I'm thinking about building a company that succeeds based on innovation and quality, not backdoor deals and personal compromises. That's naive, James said. Business doesn't work that way. Maybe it should, Roman replied. And maybe it's time Elridge International led by example. When Roman returned to his loft, he found Naomi asleep on his couch, Chairman Meow curled up beside her. The sight of her there, so peaceful and natural in his space, made something tighten in his chest. He sat down gently beside her and she stirred, opening her eyes. Hey, she said sleepily. How was your meeting? Enlightening, Roman said. I walked out. That woke Naomi up fully. You what? Why? Charles Williams wanted to make the merger conditional on me dating his daughter, Roman explained. I declined. Naomi sat up. Roman, that's a huge business decision to make because of us. I didn't make it because of us, Roman said. I made it because it was the right thing to do. I'm tired of the games, the manipulation, the treating of people like chess pieces. That's not how I want to live or do business. And your brother, the board, they'll be okay with this? Roman shrugged. Probably not, but it's my company, and it's time I started running it according to my values, not just the bottom line. Naomi studied his face. And what are those values? Roman Elridge. Honesty, he said. Integrity. Creating something meaningful that helps people. He took her hand. The things that matter to you matter to me too, Naomi. You've reminded me of who I wanted to be before I got lost in being who everyone expected me to be. Naomi felt her heart racing. This was moving so fast, becoming so intense, and part of her wanted to pull back to protect herself, but another part, a stronger part, wanted to lean in, to trust this man who was showing her his true self. I found your poetry book, she admitted. Neruda, Roman smiled. Emily gave it to me. She said I needed more romance in my life. Was she right? Naomi asked softly. Yes, Roman said, his eyes not leaving hers. But I didn't know how much until I met you. Slowly, giving her every chance to pull away, Roman leaned forward and kissed her. Unlike the polite kisses on the cheek they'd shared before, this was real and deep and full of promise. When they finally broke apart, Naomi rested her forehead against his. You're making it very hard to keep my guard up, you know. Good, Roman whispered, because I've never been more certain of anything than I am of how I feel about you. What neither of them knew was that across town, Charles Williams was making a phone call. Find out everything you can about this Naomi Sinclair, he ordered. Everyone has secrets. Find hers. The wheels were in motion for a confrontation that would test not just their growing feelings, but the very foundations of trust they were building. Because in New York's elite circles, love wasn't just about two hearts connecting. It was about power, position, and who had the most to lose. 2 months had passed since Roman and Naomi's first kiss, and their relationship had only grown stronger. They'd settled into a comfortable rhythm, quiet dinners at her place in Brooklyn, weekends at his loft, occasional outings to museums and parks. They'd learned to deal with the occasional photographer, and Naomi was slowly getting used to the curious stares when people recognized Roman. At Elridge International, Roman had been making changes. He'd increased the company's focus on affordable renewable energy, launched a scholarship program for underprivileged students interested in STEM fields, and implemented new policies to ensure all employees were treated with respect, from the executives to the cleaning staff. You're different these days, Marcus, his assistant, commented one morning as Roman reviewed the latest prototype designs for low-cost solar panels. Different how? Roman asked, looking up. Happier, Marcus said simply. More like the person your sister always said you could be. Roman smiled. Thank you, Marcus. I feel more like myself than I have in years. James, however, was less enthusiastic about the changes. He burst into Roman's office later that day, waving a financial report. The board is concerned, he said without preamble. Profits are down this quarter. As expected, Roman replied calmly. We're investing in research and development for the Affordable Energy Initiative, short-term costs for long-term gains. And what about the Williams merger? That would have boosted our stock immediately. We found other partners, Roman pointed out, the Nakamura Group in Japan and Singh Technologies in India, both better fits for our vision and without strings attached. James sighed heavily. This vision of yours is going to cost us. Charles Williams has been making calls telling people we're unstable. Let him, Roman said confidently. Our work will speak for itself. James studied his brother. It's because of her, isn't it? This schoolteacher has you thinking like an idealist instead of a businessman. Naomi hasn't asked me to change anything about the company, Roman said firmly. She's barely interested in my work. But being with her has reminded me why I started this company in the first place, to make a difference, not just a profit. Well, while you've been playing house with your Brooklyn girlfriend, Charles Williams has been busy, James said, sliding a folder across the desk. His people have been digging into her past. Roman's expression hardened. What is this? Information you should know, James said, if only to be prepared. Roman opened the folder reluctantly. Inside were photos and documents about Naomi, ordinary things like her teaching credentials and apartment lease, but also older records that made his blood run cold. Where did Williams get these? Roman demanded. Does it matter? It's all public record, James said. The question is, what are you going to do about it? Roman closed the folder. Nothing. This changes nothing. Roman, be reasonable. Get out, Roman said quietly. And tell Charles Williams that if he comes after Naomi, he'll regret it. After James left, Roman sat alone in his office, the folder still on his desk. He felt sick at the invasion of Naomi's privacy, but also worried about what would happen if this information became public. Not because it changed how he felt about her, but because he knew how much it would hurt her. He picked up his phone to call her, then set it down again. This wasn't a conversation to have over the phone. He needed to see her face to face. Meanwhile, Naomi was having lunch with her mother at a small cafe near the school where she taught. You look happy, Gloria observed, studying her daughter's face. Happier than I've seen you in a long time. I am happy, Mom, Naomi admitted. Roman is not what I expected. Meaning he's not the entitled rich man you assumed he'd be? Gloria asked with a knowing smile. Something like that, Naomi laughed. He's thoughtful and kind. And he listens. Really listens. Do you know he's been reading my favorite poets? Not to impress me, but because he genuinely wants to understand what matters to me. Gloria nodded approvingly. Actions, not words. That's what I told him, and he seems to be living up to it. He is, Naomi agreed. But what? Naomi sighed. His world is still so different from mine. Sometimes I wonder if I really belong in it. The question is whether he makes you feel like you belong, Gloria said wisely. Does he? Yes, Naomi said without hesitation. When we're together, none of that other stuff seems to matter. Then that's your answer, Gloria said, reaching across the table to squeeze her daughter's hand. The rest is just noise. Naomi's phone buzzed with a text from Roman. Need to see you tonight. Important. Can I come over after you finish school? The serious tone of the message made Naomi's stomach tighten with worry. Everything okay? She texted back. Just need to talk to you in person. Nothing to worry about, came the reply. But Naomi wasn't convinced. Roman wants to talk tonight, she told her mother. He says it's important. Gloria raised an eyebrow. Important good or important bad? I don't know, Naomi said, staring at her phone. But something feels off. That evening, Naomi paced her small apartment, waiting for Roman to arrive. When he finally knocked, she opened the door to find him looking unusually somber. What's wrong? She asked immediately. Roman stepped inside, holding a folder. Charles Williams has been investigating you. Naomi felt the blood drain from her face. What? Why? Because of me. Because we're together, Roman said, his voice tight with anger. He's looking for leverage, something to use against me through you. What did he find? Naomi asked quietly. Roman held out the folder. Nothing that changes how I feel about you. Nothing that should matter to anyone. With trembling hands, Naomi took the folder and opened it. As she flipped through the contents, her eyes filled with tears. My juvenile record, she whispered. My father's criminal history. My mother's bankruptcy after he left. None of that matters, Naomi, Roman said firmly. It matters to me, Naomi said, her voice rising. These are private things, things I've worked hard to move past. She looked up at him, her eyes pained. How did he even get these? Money opens doors it shouldn't, Roman said grimly. I'm so sorry, Naomi. This is my fault. No, Naomi said, wiping away a tear. This is what happens when worlds collide. Your world and mine. They were never meant to mix. Don't say that, Roman pleaded, reaching for her. Naomi stepped back. I was arrested at 17 for protesting a developer who was tearing down affordable housing in our neighborhood. I spent a night in jail. It's not on my adult record, but it's there. And my father. Your father's crimes are not yours, Roman interrupted. You were a child when he was arrested for fraud. But it's still part of my story, Naomi said. A part I don't share with many people. And now it's being used as a weapon because of who you are. I can protect you from this, Roman insisted. Williams can be dealt with. That's not the point, Naomi said, closing the folder. The point is that this is what your world does. It takes private things and makes them public. It judges people based on their worst moments, their mistakes, their pasts. Not all of my world is like that, Roman argued. Enough of it is, Naomi countered. And I'm not sure I want to live like that, always looking over my shoulder, wondering what someone might dig up next. Roman felt a cold fear grip his heart. What are you saying? Naomi took a deep breath. I'm saying I need time to think, to decide if this us is what I really want. Naomi, please, I'm not ending things, she clarified. I just need space to figure out if I'm strong enough for what being with you really means. Roman wanted to argue, to convince her that they could overcome this, but he respected her too much to push. I understand, he said quietly. Take all the time you need. Just know that nothing in that folder changes how I feel about you. Thank you, Naomi said softly. I just need a few days. As Roman left her apartment, he felt as though he was leaving a piece of his heart behind. The thought of losing Naomi was unbearable, but he wouldn't pressure her. She deserved the space to make her own decision. What he didn't know was that Naomi collapsed in tears as soon as the door closed behind him, overwhelmed by the violation of her privacy and the fear of what might come next. 3 days passed with no contact between them. Roman threw himself into work, trying not to check his phone every 5 minutes. Naomi spent hours talking with her mother and Zoe, trying to sort through her feelings. On the 4th day, Roman received an invitation that made his heart race. The Children's Hospital was hosting another charity gala at the Met, the same event where he and Naomi had first met 6 months earlier. Attached to the formal invitation was a handwritten note from Peter Montgomery, the organizer. Roman, please join us again this year. We've reserved seats for you and Ms. Sinclair if she's available. Roman stared at the invitation, remembering how different his life had been before that night. How empty, how hollow, despite all his success. Naomi had changed everything, bringing color and warmth into his carefully controlled existence. He picked up his phone and, before he could talk himself out of it, sent her a text. Children's Hospital Gala is this weekend. Same event where we met. Would you consider going with me? No pressure. I understand if you're not ready. Across Brooklyn, Naomi was grading papers when her phone buzzed. Seeing Roman's name made her heart skip. She'd missed him terribly these past few days, but she'd needed the time to think. She read his message several times, remembering that first night, how different she'd felt from everyone else there, how Roman had seen her, really seen her, when no one else had. After long consideration, she typed her reply. Yes, I'll go, but there's something I need to do first. Can you meet me at the public library near my school tomorrow at 4? Roman's response was immediate. I'll be there. The next day, Roman arrived at the Brooklyn Public Library 15 minutes early, nervously straightening his tie. He'd come straight from the office, unsure what Naomi wanted to show him. She arrived exactly on time, looking beautiful in her simple teacher clothes, her natural curls framing her face. The sight of her made his heart ache with longing. Thank you for coming, she said, her voice formal as if they were strangers again. Of course, Roman replied, fighting the urge to pull her into his arms. What did you want to show me? Follow me, Naomi said, leading him into the library and up to the 2nd floor. She brought him to a small community room where a group of about 20 children, ranging from 7 to 12 years old, sat at tables with books and notebooks. This is my after-school program, Naomi explained. Twice a week I work with kids who need extra help with reading and writing. A small girl spotted Naomi and ran over. Ms. Sinclair, I finished the book you gave me. That's wonderful, Lucia, Naomi said warmly. "I'll find you another one before you leave today." The children called out greetings, clearly adoring her. Naomi introduced Roman simply as "my friend," without mentioning his last name or position. "Why did you bring me here?" Roman asked quietly as the children returned to their work. "Because this is my world," Naomi said simply. "These kids, this work, it's what matters to me. Some of them come from difficult backgrounds like I did. Some have parents who are struggling or absent like mine was, but they're all working hard to build better futures for themselves." Roman watched as Naomi moved around the room, helping one child sound out a difficult word, praising another's writing, encouraging a shy boy to share his ideas. She was in her element here, confident and purposeful. "They're lucky to have you," Roman said sincerely. Naomi turned to him, her eyes serious. "If Charles Williams or anyone else makes my past public, it won't just affect me. It could affect this program, these kids. Parents might not want their children taught by someone with a record, even a juvenile one. The school might face pressure." Roman felt sick at the thought. "I would never let that happen." "You might not be able to stop it," Naomi pointed out. "That's the reality." "So you're ending things between us," Roman said, his voice hollow. "No," Naomi said, surprising him. "I'm showing you what's at stake. I needed you to see this before I made my decision." Hope flickered in Roman's chest. "And what is your decision?" "That if we're going to be together, we need to be all in," Naomi said firmly. "No more hiding, no more hoping the press loses interest. We face whatever comes together, honestly and openly." "That's exactly what I want," Roman said, relief washing over him. "But," Naomi continued, "I need to know that you understand what you're getting into. I'm not perfect, Roman. My family history is complicated. I've made mistakes. And I won't change who I am or pretend to be someone I'm not, even for you." "I would never ask you to," Roman said passionately. "Naomi, your past, your family, the things you've been through, they've made you who you are. And who you are is exactly who I love." The word hung in the air between them. Roman hadn't planned to say it, but now that it was out, he knew it was true. He loved her, completely and without reservation. Naomi's eyes widened. "You love me?" "Yes," Roman said simply. "I love you. I think I've loved you since that first night at the Met, when you talked about art and didn't care who I was." Naomi's expression softened. "I love you too," she admitted. "That's what made this so hard. I was afraid loving you meant losing myself." "Never," Roman promised. "I fell in love with you, not some version of you that fits into my world better. Just you, exactly as you are." Naomi glanced around to make sure the children were occupied, then reached up and kissed him softly. "Then we'll face whatever comes together." "Together," Roman agreed, holding her close. The night of the gala arrived, and Naomi felt a strange sense of déjà vu as she prepared. Unlike last time, she'd had time to think about what to wear. She'd considered buying something more elaborate, but ultimately decided on a simple dress, similar to the one she'd worn when she first met Roman. It was who she was, and she was done pretending to be anyone else. When Roman picked her up, his eyes lit up at the sight of her. "You look beautiful," he said, kissing her cheek. "You don't mind that I'm not wearing designer labels?" she asked. "I love that you're not," Roman replied honestly. "You never needed any of that to stand out." As their car pulled up to the Met, Naomi could see photographers lined up at the entrance. "Ready for this?" Roman asked, squeezing her hand. "As ready as I'll ever be," she replied. They stepped out of the car and were immediately met with flashing cameras. Roman kept his arm firmly around Naomi's waist as they walked the red carpet, ignoring the shouted questions from reporters. Inside, the gala was as glittering and elaborate as Naomi remembered, but this time she wasn't an outsider. She was here as Roman's date, and everyone knew it. Peter Montgomery greeted them warmly. "Roman, Ms. Sinclair, so glad you could make it. You two are quite the talk of New York these days." "Good things, I hope," Roman said smoothly. "Mostly curiosity," Peter replied. "Everyone wants to know more about the woman who captured Roman Elridge's heart." Naomi smiled politely, but felt uncomfortable under the scrutiny. As they moved through the room, she could feel eyes following them, hear the whispers. "Isn't that his girlfriend? The teacher? What's she wearing? Is that off the rack? I heard her father was in prison." The last comment made Naomi freeze. Roman felt her tension and leaned close. "Ignore them," he whispered. "They don't matter." Before she could respond, a familiar voice cut through the crowd. "Roman, how good to see you again." Charles Williams approached, Vanessa at his side. Both wore practiced smiles that didn't reach their eyes. "Charles," Roman said coolly, I'm surprised to see you here. The Children's Hospital is one of our favorite causes, Charles replied smoothly. His gaze shifted to Naomi. And this must be the famous Ms. Sinclair we've heard so much about you. The threat in his words was barely veiled. Naomi felt her heart racing, but forced herself to meet his eyes steadily. Mr. Williams, yes, I'm Naomi Sinclair, third-grade teacher, daughter of a housekeeper, and yes, my father went to prison when I was a child. Anything else you'd like to know? Charles blinked, clearly not expecting such directness. Vanessa looked uncomfortable, shifting her gaze away. Naomi is also the founder of an after-school literacy program that has helped dozens of underprivileged children improve their reading skills, Roman added proudly. Something the Elridge Foundation will be supporting with a significant grant this year. How commendable, Charles managed, his smile tightening. If you'll excuse us, Roman said, placing his hand at the small of Naomi's back. We see some friends we should greet. As they walked away, Naomi let out a shaky breath. Did you see his face? He didn't expect me to just say it outright. You were amazing, Roman said, his eyes shining with admiration. You took away his power by owning your story. It still terrifies me, Naomi admitted, but I'm done being afraid of my past. They mingled for a while, Roman introducing Naomi to people he actually respected, scientists, philanthropists, artists. Many were genuinely interested in her teaching work, and Naomi found herself relaxing slightly. Later, as they were enjoying dessert, an elegantly dressed woman approached their table. Roman, darling, it's been too long, she said, air kissing his cheek. Rebecca, Roman greeted her. Naomi, this is Rebecca Winters, editor of Society Pages magazine. The famous Naomi Sinclair, Rebecca said, studying her with undisguised curiosity. You've caused quite a stir in our little world. Not intentionally, Naomi replied. The best stories never are, Rebecca said with a smile. I'd love to feature you both in our next issue. The CEO and the Teacher, New York's most unexpected love story. Thank you, but no, Roman said firmly. Naomi isn't a story for your magazine. Rebecca looked disappointed but not surprised. Well, if you change your mind... She was interrupted by the sound of someone tapping on a microphone. Peter Montgomery was at the podium, preparing to introduce the evening's speakers. Before we continue with our program, Peter said, I've just received some concerning news. It appears that an anonymous source has provided several news outlets with personal information about one of our guests tonight. As the organizer of this event, I want to express my disappointment that someone would use a charity gala to launch such an attack. Murmurs spread through the room. Naomi felt her blood run cold, knowing instinctively that the anonymous source was Charles Williams and the personal information was about her. Roman's face hardened as he looked across the room at Charles, who was pretending to look surprised by the announcement. Naomi, Roman said quietly, whatever happens next, remember that I love you, that nothing changes that. Before she could respond, she saw Roman stand up and make his way toward the podium. Peter looked surprised but stepped aside when Roman whispered something to him. Good evening, Roman said into the microphone, his voice steady and commanding. The room fell silent immediately. For those who don't know me, I'm Roman Elridge, CEO of Elridge International. Many of you have been curious about my relationship with Naomi Sinclair. Naomi felt every eye in the room turn to her. She sat up straighter, refusing to look ashamed or afraid. Naomi and I met right here at this event 6 months ago, Roman continued. She wasn't dressed to impress anyone. She wasn't networking or trying to get my attention. She was just herself, honest, intelligent, and completely authentic. He looked directly at Naomi as he spoke, his eyes full of love and pride. I've recently learned that someone here tonight has tried to use details from Naomi's past to embarrass her, and by extension, me. They thought they could drive us apart by exposing things she might prefer to keep private. Gasps and whispers filled the room. Charles Williams shifted uncomfortably in his seat. So let me be clear, Roman said, his voice growing stronger. Yes, Naomi was arrested at 17 for protesting the demolition of affordable housing in her neighborhood. Yes, her father went to prison for fraud when she was a child. And yes, her mother worked as a housekeeper for wealthy families to make ends meet. Naomi felt tears filling her eyes, not from shame but from the overwhelming emotion of hearing Roman defend her so publicly, so proudly. But here's what else you should know, Roman continued. Naomi put herself through college while helping support her mother. She became a teacher because she believes every child deserves a chance at a better future. She runs an after-school program on her own time without pay to help struggling students learn to read and write. He paused, looking around the room. She didn't dress to impress me, because she didn't need to. She impressed me by being herself, and for the first time in my life I'm not trying to impress anyone either, just her. Naomi recognized the words from the premise she'd shared with him, moved that he had remembered them so perfectly. "I love Naomi Sinclair," Roman declared, his voice ringing through the silent room. Not despite her past, but because everything she's experienced has made her the remarkable woman she is today. Anyone who thinks they can come between us by exposing her history doesn't understand what true love is. He looked directly at Charles Williams now. And anyone who thinks they can use personal attacks to influence business decisions doesn't understand how I run my company. With that, Roman stepped away from the podium and walked back to Naomi, who was now standing, tears streaming down her face. When he reached her, she threw her arms around him, not caring who was watching. "I love you," she whispered. "So much." The room erupted in applause, not the polite, restrained kind usually heard at such events, but genuine, enthusiastic applause. People were standing, some wiping away tears of their own. Charles Williams and Vanessa quietly slipped out a side door, their attempt at sabotage having backfired spectacularly. Rebecca Winters approached them again, her eyes gleaming with excitement. "Now that," she said, "was a story worth telling." "Still not interested in a feature," Roman said firmly, his arm around Naomi. "Fair enough," Rebecca conceded, "but that speech will be headline news tomorrow with or without your cooperation." As the night continued, person after person came up to express their support and admiration. Some shared their own stories of overcoming difficult pasts. Others praised Naomi's work with children. "I had no idea this would happen," Naomi said to Roman, as they finally got a moment alone, "that people would be so accepting." "People respond to authenticity," Roman said, "something you taught me." As the gala wound down, they slipped out early, both emotionally exhausted from the evening's drama. "Where to?" the driver asked as they settled into the car. Roman looked at Naomi questioningly. "Home," she said simply. "Your place." 3 weeks later, Naomi sat at a window table in a quiet cafe in Harlem reading a book of poetry. The story of that night at the gala had indeed made headlines, but the public response had been overwhelmingly positive. Roman's speech had gone viral, with many praising his defense of Naomi and their genuine love story. Elridge International's stock had actually risen in the aftermath, as investors responded to Roman's integrity and clear vision. The Williams merger was forgotten, replaced by more aligned partnerships that better served the company's new direction. Naomi looked up from her book to see Roman walking toward the cafe. He wasn't wearing a suit for once, just jeans and a simple shirt. No driver waited outside, no assistant followed with a phone and schedule. He was just himself. He smiled when he saw her, that real smile that reached his eyes and made her heart skip. As he sat down across from her, he slid a small, worn poetry book across the table. "Every poem reminds me of you," he said softly. "Every word I never said, I found in here." Naomi closed the book, her fingers lingering on its worn cover. She looked up at the man she loved, the man who had stood before the world and declared his love for her without reservation. "Then, maybe now's a good time to start saying them," she said, reaching for his hand. Roman interlaced his fingers with hers, his eyes full of promise. "I'm ready, if you're ready to listen." Naomi smiled, feeling truly seen and loved for exactly who she was. "I've been ready since the night we met," she said. "I just needed to be sure you were seeing me, not some idea of me." "I see you, Naomi Sinclair," Roman said, bringing her hand to his lips. "I've never seen anyone more clearly in my life." Outside the cafe window, New York City continued its restless pace. People rushed by, caught up in their own stories, their own dramas. But inside, in that quiet moment of connection, Naomi and Roman had found something rare and precious, a love based not on what either of them pretended to be, but on who they truly were. She hadn't dressed to impress him. She hadn't changed to please him. She hadn't tried to be anyone but herself, and that had made all the difference.